Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you are doing well. I hope you are having a fabulous week. I am having the best time. I am in Seattle with my in-laws. I love this city so much. You know, it's one of the cities that I've created an itinerary for these fabulous curated trips, these culinary adventures for solo female travelers. And I have not had one of these on the books for a while. And being back in this glorious city is making me question that judgment. So be on the lookout for another gorgeous curated trip that doesn't require a passport when we come back to Seattle. Okay. Like I said, I'm having the best time. I love my in-laws. They're so wonderful. We have caught an amazing show at Jazz Alley. We've been eating Beecher's mac and cheese. I'm connecting with some friends that live locally. It's so fun. It's so fun to live a life of curiosity and discovery and delight and knowing that there is surprise and joy waiting around every corner because that's what we're looking for. It's just yummy. It's just dreamy. And I love that this podcast is offering such an opportunity for me to live a life of curiosity and delight and surprise and having conversations with people that are doing things that are not in my wheelhouse. And I'm getting to learn so many wonderful things that I don't already know, whether it's a coach or a therapist, or we have an upcoming interview with a trans woman, so born a man and is now a woman. Boy, did I have some things to learn. Girl, did I have some things to learn, I should say. It's just so fun. It's really fun to be in a place that I know that I don't know everything, and that I am delighted to learn about new people and what their yeses are and what's inspiring them. And today's guest is also engrossed in the day-to-day beautiful outpouring of her life in a place that is not in my wheelhouse. And she did such a great job of educating me, but also inspiring me with action that I can take that is in line with my values, is a vote for who I'm becoming, and is really in service to the message of this podcast and everything I do. And that is cheering women on to their next yes. So today's guest is Jessi Lynn. Jessi is a published and Amazon bestselling author of the book, The Truth About Being a Woman in Construction. See, I told you, not in my wheelhouse, but I'm here for it. She is the CEO and founder of PivotHigher Plus, a social enterprise assisting women and non-binary individuals with professional development resources who are career changers, entering and exiting the skilled trades, and pivoting into green jobs. Her team works as a centralized hub for individuals and organizations, offering workshops, career mapping, and referrals. She is a delight. She is up to big, fabulous things in the world, and she has some wonderful, actionable steps that we can all implement that are supporting women, which is what we're all about over here. Okay, my friends, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jessica Lynn. Jessi, thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And I just have to say for our listeners, I wish that there was video because you're so darling. I love, I already told you this, but I'll say it again. I love your glasses. I love your earrings, your jewelry. Like you just have really fabulous style and invitational energy that it
Aw.
makes me, I'm really thrilled because I don't, it's kind of like speed dating, this podcast situation where I'm meeting people for the first time and then we're like, oh, let's record our very first conversation. Like that's kind of weird, but I could tell as soon as your video was turned on, it's like, oh, I already like this conversation. This is a good one.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. You're definitely making my face turn red. So thank you for that lovely compliment.
It's all true, and I think sometimes we do just need to take a bath in appreciation that is showered on us by another person because I mean, not to be in your head, but sometimes what happens for me is I think, oh, well, if they really knew, whatever, they wouldn't be saying this. And I think there's so much truth in another person's opinion of us and what they see in us, especially at a first meeting and first interaction because there is no filter. It's all just pure positive energy. And that is what you give off. And it
Mhm.
is totally resonating with mine that I feel like we're already friends. We're already been talking for hours. And I'm already sad that I have another interview right after this one because I would like to stay longer with you. I can already tell.
Well, yes, I appreciate all that. And I have to admit, like even kind of focusing like on women, right? I feel like as
Yeah.
women, we definitely tend to be like, oh, don't compliment me. Oh, it's okay. Or we do the thing of like it's we, it's us, it's team, which I do the same thing, which that is also important. But I do think that for whatever reason, societal, how we're brought up, trauma, you name it, there's just different ways that women are just kind of uncomfortable with the compliment, and so, yes, I'm with you. We definitely need to advocate for more of that, especially women supporting women, but also being able to like gracefully like, yes, thank you. I have worked hard on, or I appreciate that. So, yeah, I love it.
Yay. And it is true. Receiving does not come naturally. We deflect so much. Even if someone says, oh my gosh, that dress is darling, we're so quick to say, oh, I got it on sale, or I've had it forever,
Mhm.
or whatever. I could just
Yes.
say, I just went shopping yesterday and paid full price. Like no one ever says that, but we could.
Yeah.
Or we could just say
Yes.
thank you.
I was gonna say we could just say thank you and being okay and maybe even being uncomfortable with feeling uncomfortable with saying thank you. So yes.
Oh, we're uncomfortable doing so many other things that are
This
less
is true.
enjoyable than that. So let's just
Yes.
do ourselves a favor and say thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay. How are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
Oh, I actually have been thinking about this question quite a bit. I really feel like I'm saying yes by leaning into the transition of October. Like October just feels like a very heavy transition month for lots of reasons. It's my birthday month, so
Happy
hello,
birthday.
hello, fellow Libras. But yeah, like even a couple of weeks ago, I lost my full-time paying role, working for a big company as a director. But like at the same time, I've got book stuff going on. I've got my own little social enterprise. I mean, there's a lot of things happening all at once, and a lot of it feels really good. So I feel like that's how I'm leaning into yes right now. And even listening to, I think it was your latest podcast, you were talking about the messy middle, and it's like I feel like I'm kind of embracing the messy middle. Like this is good. This is good for these reasons. It gives me some breathing space, and it's just for right now. Tomorrow could be different. A month from now could be different. Who knows? But we're going to take it a day at a time.
Right. And of course it'll be different because
Yes.
you are the deliberate creator of your experience. And
Yes.
you get to, if you, anyone that feels stuck, you're just creating the same thing over and over again. There's so much momentum. And when we can trust, again, I know we've never met, but when we can trust in a higher good, I would call that God. I know that God knows and he's not mean. So a layoff is, or whatever, for me, okay, I'll use my own experience, not yours, and I'll get out of your head for a second. So I have a historic bed and breakfast on a small flower farm in New England, and it's beautiful. And I was a wedding planner for 30 years. And so
Mm.
I love a party, and I had a beautiful bride reach out to me. She lives in DC, but she actually grew up in my town, and she's getting married in her dad's backyard. But she saw that I was a wedding planner, and then she did some more research and saw that I have this bed and breakfast. And she's like, I drove by your house every day of my young
Oh,
life, and I can't believe that I can go inside and I could stay there on my wedding night. And that's amazing. And she's so cute. So I'm very delighted, of course, to help her and her fabulous fiance plan these. And she wants to do really fun things, like have an art gallery reception, like super, super
oh.
fun. And then the
Mm.
following weekend, I was booked for a 50th birthday party by this really fabulous couple. And they're so excited. And while I was in France, I got a call from the bride. And she was like, I know you're traveling. I just want you to know, I think we're going to elope. This is just getting too much.
No.
And so, of course, I called her right back. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. Yay for you. Hooray. Trust that intuition. It's all good. No worries. And then right after that, the event for the following weekend, they called me and said, oh, I didn't want to tell you when you were in France, but Michael's decided that we should go to Italy for 3 weeks instead of having a big party. And I need to cancel. And I was like, oh, Michael is full of great ideas. I love it. And so I could, of course, be thinking, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? I had these two big, cash injection I am a business also. Like,
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
how I do it, and panic whatever 8 months before the events are even going to happen. But instead, I just started thinking, ooh, ooh, I can't wait to find out what's happening at the beginning of June that I apparently need to be available for, and not
Mhm.
have any big events on my calendar or on my property because I would not be able to say yes to it. So it's such a fun, we can make it a fun
Mhm.
journey of curiosity and discovery and trust and surrender, and living in this environment of appreciation, of knowing that, yes, this thing is happening. And I could think this is the worst thing ever, or I could think, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's next. I know everything is always working out for me, and I happen to be launching a book. And won't this time be great? And, you have all of this extra time and space to celebrate your birthday and
Mhm.
say yes to book tours or whatever is happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I definitely think the universe has something bigger bigger in store, and there definitely is some relief in it too. Like that was one of
Ah.
the ongoing conversations I've had with my mother, who's a little bit like worried, and then of course my girlfriends and stuff. And yeah, so there's the relief, but then there's leaning into it of like, okay, well, this door is closing. That means another door is going to close. And I am very stubborn. My entire career, my entire life is an example of that. So it's like I'm not exactly just sitting still. Like there's no moss growing on the rocks. Like I'm definitely picking up, moving, turning, exploring different ways, and having the white paper, the white space really to explore new things and be excited about what is next. It could be another role with another great company, or maybe I'll go work for a nonprofit, or maybe something remarkable will happen. Who knows? But yeah, I'm not going to stress about it right now because that's not going to help me. But ask me in 2 months. I mean, by then I might be a little freaked out.
No, no, because you're going to decide. I love that. So, if there were, and we can edit this out if you don't want to answer this question, but if there were no limits, what would you do next?
Oh goodness. If there were absolutely no limits, I honestly would probably take some time to work remotely on my own social enterprise, PivotHigher Plus, but do it in a different country. Um, like go work in Germany, maybe go work in France, Spain, like just be somewhere different to explore and to embrace different cultures, have those experiences to travel. But also I love what I'm doing with Pivot Higher Plus and what my team is doing and building. So kind of having that range and ability would be amazing.
I love that. I love that. So, say more about your social enterprise.
Yes. So Pivot Higher Plus, Pivot Higher Her, it's a play on words, actually is a resource hub for women and non-binary. It's dedicated to helping individuals who are trying to enter into the trades, who are career changers, or even interested in the clean energy transition. What could that look like with their transferable skills? So yes, my small team is working together to help support individuals, but also working with organizations. So we are very quickly building up our partnerships to, in essence, build this braid of resources to help address many of the gaps. Because at the end of the day, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I think a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, especially locally, is there's a lot that already exists. It's just a matter of connecting and thinking globally. And so that's in essence what we're doing.
I love that. And how did this idea come about? What got you started? And I just want to mention you said the word globally, which I think very much speaks into that. If there were no limitations, I would be working remotely from all these other countries. It actually sounds like a part of your business plan, not a part of some weird lady asked me to pretend there were no limits dreamy thing. I think it's so good when we give ourselves space to dream. It
Mhm.
really unlocks the next logical step.
Yes.
Yes, it's aspirational, but it's the direction we're already going. So it makes sense that our
Yes.
dreams inform our reality and that our reality informs our dreams because
Mhm.
we're all going to the same in the same direction. So
Mhm.
how did this start?
So it actually is a mix of my own personal experiences and passion. So I came up through the trades. I was actually a welder for 8 years. Eventually moved to
Amazing. That's a very badass
Thank you.
role. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I
Yes,
shoot
thank you.
fire that requires a helmet and special eyewear. That's cool.
Yeah. Yes, it was actually, I enjoyed it very much. There's definitely days where I miss it. And eventually the goal is to maybe have my own space, but we're working on that. But yeah, so I moved into construction management, which really pulled my experience working in the trades, but more managerial, like managing people, but also understanding their challenges and pain points. And then more recently working as a director, again, reframing those experiences to know, okay, here's what the field needs. Hey, executive leadership, like what can we do? We need to be doing XYZ to promote, have the right tools, create accessibility, to hear the challenges. So anyway, that's kind of a lot of information or context, but in essence, right before I started my MBA, I had this idea of I have had so many incredible conversations and heartbreaking conversations, especially with women, different minority groups, of I feel stuck. I feel unsure of what to do next. Like I have these skills or I want to go pursue these skills, but I have no idea what to do. I don't have a car. In a bad relationship. So thinking through that, I started to map out this idea of, okay, how can I create this resource? How can I create this benefit that is accessible no matter where you are? So fast forward, I go through and do my MBA, which is very intensive. And then roughly a year ago, a little over a year ago, I finally taking all these ideas and experiences and pulled them together into Pivot Higher, and then we rebranded to Pivot Higher Plus. And so instead of doing kind of the traditional consulting, recruiting, and coaching model, which is very expensive and not necessarily accessible for most, we went in the direction of a resource hub, which means no matter where you are, you can click in and connect with these different organizations that are probably doing exactly what you need help with, whether it's paying for a bus ticket, getting you work boots, getting you through the technical classes, or maybe you're just having like a mental hardship and you need to talk to someone or listen or connect with another woman or individual you see yourself in. And so that's kind of it. That's the story of how we came to be what we are today.
It's amazing.
Oh,
That's
thank you.
beautiful work, Queen. Good job.
Thank you. Yes, I have an amazing team. I'm amazed at what we're able to do in such a short period of time. And I think the time is now, and for so many reasons, especially with the women that I'm coming in contact with. I think a lot of us are building these things because we're tired of waiting. We're tired of things just getting better and the world to magically be shaped for us. So we're like, no, we're just gonna do it. And so
Right.
together we're doing it, and it's I love it for so many different reasons. But yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how has it pivoted from your idea to now fruition to now it's been a year? Has it been a year since you okay. So how
Yes.
have you seen like, oh, this is where I thought it was going and then oh, the bigger need is over here. Yay, let's do that. How have you seen that?
Yeah, so the adjustment definitely started with like kind of the basis of me working with individuals for the last 10 years. Sometimes it was resume review, sometimes it was interview prep, sometimes it was just making that connection. And so that was in essence what I envisioned. It was like a team of me's, like different different folks that could do those things, and working with individuals. And so that was kind of the starting point. But then we quickly saw this greater need of like, well, that's not accessible. And also, we only have so many resources, humans, people who can do the work.
Sure.
So, how can we change it so that we can work with individuals? They can quickly have access, but not necessarily be impeded by there's only one coach or one person they could talk to, but at the same time being able to, again, thinking globally, connecting all of these partnerships together, to talk to each other. I think that's been one of the biggest magical pieces is, hey, did you know each other? Oh, great, well now you do, and now you can collaborate and build something and support each other. And so yeah, it's just kind of been this amazing thread of different individuals and organizations coming together to either rally to support others or to rally and support, greater initiatives so that there is less isolation, there's more shared resourcing, like, especially money. And yeah, we're just continue to move in a direction where we're able to sit down and have these conversations with like a tiny contractor, for example, and just be able to say, hey, we're trying to be affordable and accessible for you, but also working with individuals to connect those dots.
Right. Oh, it's so beautiful. How have you seen the women that you're serving? How has it changed for them?
The biggest thing that I have personally noticed so far is confidence.
Mm,
I think it's the confidence of being able to speak up. It's the confidence to be able to raise your hand. It's the confidence to know what the next step could be. I've noticed even some women in like using Facebook groups, great resource,
right.
talking to different women that are in the trades currently, either they're like 20-year-olds or they're 50-year-olds who have these very shared experiences, being able to talk to each other, but
Right.
also like the hardship of those different situations, but being able to lean on each other. And through that, being able to reach out and say, well, I need to ask for help, but I don't know how to ask for help or what kind of help I need. And so being able to help them thread that together, or even again, having that mentorship or guidance, again, it feeds into the confidence of like, oh, I can do that. Okay, it's scary, but I'm going to lean into it because I now feel like I have a tool that I can add to my toolbox.
Right. I love that you mentioned the mentorship, and it's interesting because I think just easily our mind would go to, oh, good, the 50-year-old is going to mentor the 20-year-old and tell her how to, navigate the nonsense of this industry
Yes.
that's male dominated, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
part of what can happen is that the 20-year-old who has not been in an industry that's male dominated can say, um, I'm not available for that, or we're not putting up with that,
Yes.
or you need to tell him to go jump in a lake or whatever, like the thing is
Yeah.
happening. So I think it's just this really beautiful dynamic of
Mm.
new and seasoned, that
Yes.
when we're coming into any I mean, when I come into these podcast interviews, it's just, I have a beginner's mind. It's like, ooh, what don't I know about this
Yes.
person that I get to discover in this conversation? And I think as a woman in my 50s, I used to think when someone would say, "Oh, I just really need a mentor," I was like, "Oh, well, what do I like? I can't tell you how to do anything. Like, you're great, you're doing fine." But now I feel, just in recent years, oh, I actually have a lot to say. I
Yes.
actually have a lot of insight, and I'm also equally curious,
Mhm.
and I'm excited about what else I don't know. I
Yeah.
mentioned France, and I go there often. I lead culinary trips for solo female travelers.
Oh,
I know, it's so fun. Everybody
that's
makes that
amazing.
face. It's fabulous.
That sounds great.
It is amazing. And on this recent trip, like I said, I go often. I discovered two of the most glorious places that I had never been in. One was a department store that was so ridiculously beautiful. And as a part of its remodel, I had a blister on my toe and I needed to get new shoes. So I went to the store, and the shoe floor is a high floor, and the sneakers were kind of tucked behind because they're not fancy shoes. And in this back corner, apparently during the remodel of the store, they changed what was a wall into a window, and it has the view of this gorgeous Gothic cathedral that
Oh,
you would
wow.
have never seen. I walked around the corner in search of tennis shoes and just thought, oh my gosh, like this, the universe gave me a blister just so I could see this beautiful sight. What else don't I know? And then I learned that there's an opera house at the Chateau of Versailles. I
Oh,
never
oh,
knew
okay.
that. And it's beautiful. And now I'm going to the opera soon. So I'm very delighted when I am in conversations with someone who we already know there's some sort of like-mindedness
Mhm.
there. We're about the
Yeah.
yes, and we're about discovery, and we're about going where we haven't already been. And
Yes.
I think that there's just so much wisdom and richness there.
Mhm. No, agreed. I definitely think there's beauty by connecting the different generations together. Because, like, even the generation younger than me, I always get it mixed up. I think
I
it's
don't
Gen
even
Z.
know.
I,
Whatever.
I get so mixed up. But, like, I'm like watching these little TikTok videos and hearing these stories of like young, like 20-year-olds just saying, like, no. And I'm like, yes.
Yes.
And then as a millennial, I also like I have worked with lots of women who are like in their 50s and even 60s, and like they're helping them embrace like your age is not going to impede. We're not going to let it. And here's how. And like, so we'll talk about networking or we'll talk about like different experiences. And it's really humbling to have those conversations, especially with older women, how they're like, I'm just in awe of how you present yourself and how much wisdom you have already gained in your young
Mm-hmm.
age. And I'm just like, thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm also really happy that I can help and support you. So yeah, I definitely believe in the lifelong learner of there's always something new to understand or, new skill set or new approach or just a new way of thinking about stuff.
Yes. And I love that you're sharing the wealth of what you're learning.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes.
so beautiful. And the one way that you're doing that is through your book. Tell
Yes.
me about your book.
I wrote a book. Yeah, so
Congratulations. I
thank
wrote a book.
you. Thank you. It still feels a little surreal, but yes, I mean, I just remember cracking the page. The first book that I got, being able to crack the page, just huh. But yes, so
This
I
is
did
a
write a book.
big year for you.
It is.
You
It is.
finished your MBA, you started a social enterprise, you wrote a book, you're having a major shift in your career.
Yes.
Just take all of that in and know how all of that is preparing you for what is next. There
Yes.
are no limitations.
We're definitely forging our own path. That is for
Yes.
sure. Yes. Yes. So the book, The Truth About Being a Woman in Construction, I like to consider it a call to action for the construction industry, but really male-dominated spaces. It is more or less kind of a memoir biography of my own personal experiences, starting more or less high school, but talking about my childhood, how I got into welding, and then eventually construction management, getting my MBA, and then starting up PivotHigher or PivotHigher Plus. So yeah, it's definitely one woman described it to me as like you didn't hold any punches back. And I'm like, I feel like I did though, because there's like a whole nother layer
Mm-hmm.
that isn't
Yes.
discussed.
Yeah, we need
But
the
that's,
unabridged
yes,
version.
yes, yes. Well, and that's why I'm excited to do some of these podcasts and, ongoing projects related to the book because I think there is a lot of opportunity to collaborate with other women because this isn't just my experience. It's a
Mm-hmm.
collection of many experiences, whether you are a woman, whether you belong to a minority group, because the way that we are treated is different. There's always this other expectation. Either you're too much, too quiet, too insert, and then, of course, the different isms that we face, the different assaults, harassment. I mean, just the barriers that we have to face on a day-to-day basis in those spaces, it has to change so that we can have the psychologically safe spaces to be authentic, to be innovative. And until that changes, nothing is going to evolve in the way that it should. And we're going to continue to have a shortage when it comes to skilled trades. We're going to continue to hinder individuals' ability to find financial freedom. And, ultimately that's just going to hurt all of us. So I'm a very big advocate about things need to change. And I feel like the industry itself needs to stop saying they're going to do something and actually do it. And so that's where I'm at of tired of talking about it. Let's do something about it.
Right. And that's an amazing, empowering place to be because you also have ideas of
Yeah.
what that change could look like instead of expecting the people that we already don't think are doing it right to come up with
Yeah.
doing it differently because I think they would have if they
And
could
yes.
wrap their head around a different way.
Agreed.
So, again, if there were no limits, what are a couple of things that you would change, or what do you think would have the most impact for the women that you're serving or the people that you're
Oh,
serving?
I honestly feel like it comes back to who is in charge. And I hate to
Mm.
lean on kind of the hierarchical, matrix of, the world and industry.
It's
But I
what's
feel
in
like,
place. So I think
yeah,
it's important.
it would be nice to completely tear it down and do something different. But again, it's an old system.
Right.
System
Short
is
of a
broken.
nuclear war, I don't see how
Yes.
that's going to that we all survive, but
Well, and the likelihood of who it's going to harm is going to outweigh the benefit of doing that, at least, very hardcore tear down redo.
Yeah.
So, in a perfect world, if I could wave my wand, it would honestly be able to shift the financial ability for these smaller women, BIPOC owned contractors, businesses that are really trying to reshape the way that we create work environments, whether they're dedicated to a shorter work week, whether they are really trying to lean into a more inclusive staffing, how they hire, who they support. I really feel like those basically giving power to those new, using air quotes here, new change makers who have the authority, have the expertise to create a bigger space for individuals to step into instead of saying, oh, we're just going to keep the good old boys club. We're going to just keep it as is. And then you have to fit in that sphere. We're not fitting in the sphere. We don't want to fit in the sphere. And that's quickly becoming evident. So wave the wand, give the money and the power to the people that actually want to see the world a better place.
I love that. Short of the wand, what can I do? I have an old house. Boy, do I need a lot of people in the trades. So hiring smaller companies, hiring women-owned companies, hiring what are practical things that our listeners can do? Because I would imagine no one's going to hand over the money or how it comes in until the people that have the money in the first place start pointing it in a different direction. So,
Yeah.
is this something that, you know, like recycling, that we all are just going to feel like we're doing our part, but then all the wedding caterers are throwing everything in the bar in the trash can, and I'm
Yes.
rinsing out water bottles and putting it in my bin and feel like I'm saving the world. So are there things that a homeowner can do, or are these things that we need to use our voice, use our votes? What do we do?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And I think at the end of the day, it is advocacy. So using the homeowner example, I think is a really good starting point of when you are looking for services to be done in your home, it could literally be as simple as looking for a female or BIPOC or queer owned organization, team, individual who can offer those services. So that would be my starting point of like, hey, when you're looking for a new roof, maybe spend an extra 10 minutes and say, okay, here are the contractors around me. Are one of these more focused or one of these women owned? Are they BIPOC owned? Like, I feel like that's being more intentional with your money,
Mm-hmm.
right? How you invest. So
Sure.
I would say that's one part of it. And then the other is when I feel like these conversations come up around the skilled trades. I feel like a lot of people, not everyone, a lot of people kind of go to this mindset of dirty jobs, ew. What I would encourage when people think of that is to actually think of it, that could be financial freedom for someone who may not feel comfortable with a traditional, air quotes again, traditional path of education. Like I went to school in my late 20s because that made sense for me and I was more mature and understood what I was studying a lot better.
Right.
But I mean, it's a way for people to gain financial freedom. So then when we have those conversations, even when we're talking to our kids, those who might have middle school or high schoolers or cousins or be the cool auntie, like that should be a conversation of like, well, what do you want to do? Oh, you like working your hands. Oh, you're artistic. Have you thought of maybe you do want to be a welder? Maybe you want to be a fabricator. I mean, it's just kind of having that open-mindedness.
Right. I live in Massachusetts, but I'm from California, and I'm really amazed, surprised, delighted that there are schools, there are vocational schools here that we didn't have. I mean, maybe there are in California, but I never heard of them. And they're regional, but the programs are amazing, and they become journeymen while they are in high school. So the
Yeah.
electrician I use, we always have a 16-year-old, an 18-year-old here learning how to do stuff when he comes. And so I think
That,
that regionally it's more accepted, or maybe I'm just wasn't paying attention. Are there areas that just don't even offer something like that?
Yeah, actually, I have to give a shout out to Amanda Luchetti of the Skilled Project out in California. She does her own series of podcasts to help bring visibility to skilled labor, skilled trades as well. So her and I have been collaborating on trying to figure out like, do these programs exist? And what we're finding out is that it doesn't exist consistently.
Right.
There are some good spots or good hubs, if you will, that really do help define that path for individuals, especially youth, as they're trying to figure out, well, do I want to go to college? Does that make sense? Maybe I want to do this more skilled approach. And there's just a lot of inconsistency when I think about the United States. Like each state kind of has their own way of functioning, if you will. So municipalities might be different, unions could be different, whether union, non-union, obviously politics is in there as well. And so yeah, there is because of the lack of consistency, it can make it really hard. But then I think there's also this level of societal expectation of like, well, you are going to go to college, you're going to get all this debt, and then hopefully you land a really good job. Oh, wait, with the job market's crazy right now, you're going to have all this debt. You might not get a job that pays you well. So it becomes kind of this pinball of like, well, did I make the right decision? Could I have done something else? Oh, I'm not necessarily happy in my job. Oh, I could be an electrician and love my job. So it's just being
And make
more,
millions of dollars.
you
Be a
can make really good
plumber
money.
and work on Thanksgiving. You will make so much money. I've called them before. They make a lot of money.
I bet, yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like, I feel like when we talk about skilled trades, we almost keep it in this limited lens of, oh, well, you're just going to fix pipes for the rest of your life. We oversimplify it. And realistically, there's so many skill sets you learn from being in the trade or learning a trade, but you can also take those skills and apply it in different ways, whether you want to become your own business owner, whether you do decide to go back to school and get an education, or maybe you do pursue business because you want to. There's just a lot of opportunities because you've already built this financial stability in your life
Right.
and you've got these terrific skills that you can then turn around and transfer, or at the same time you can take it and you can help teach others as well. So if you want to become a professor or technical educator, like there are a lot of doors that can quickly open up. It's just a matter of getting your foot in the first door. Like, does this make sense? Does this feel good? And then having the open-mindedness of, yeah, I could do this. Oh, I can also do this over here, and not limiting yourself. But also,
Right.
again, kind of helping society along the way of like, we used to promote and be happy about these things. And now it's like, oh, well, you didn't go to four-year college, we can't hire you. And that's a whole nother discussion, but there's a lot of
That
work that I'm
is.
trying to help with that too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we are focusing on a problem that is big, that
Mhm.
does require a shift in societal thinking,
Yeah.
that we can get distracted by fighting against what we don't want
Hmm.
and using all of that energy to push against, when in anything it is wiser for us and more productive to focus on what we want, on
Hmm.
what is working, on and putting our resources there. And like you said, educating, of course, the women already in the trade of how they can grow their businesses or find skilled workers or find appropriate good matches for employment, but
Hmm.
the education of the society, the education of 50-year-old white ladies with historic houses that need a
Yeah.
lot of trade. They could feel pedantic, but these are important conversations because we just, if it's not our particular passion, then I'm just going to call the first person that calls me back, actually, is what
Yeah.
that's who I'm going to hire. That's my frustration. And
Yeah.
so I think that this is effective. This
Hmm.
is the groundswell. This is how change happens. And because it makes sense
Hmm.
and you're passionate about it and you're using your voice and then you're encouraging people to make a different choice for themselves, that and they can feel good. I want to feel good about the electrician I hire. I want to feel good about the people that are working on my house, because this is a place where dreams come true. This is a place where
Yes,
my dreams come true. It's a place where my bed and breakfast guest dreams come true. And I want it to be a place where the people that are artisans that are helping keep this beautiful, historic gorgeousness alive and functioning, that their dreams are coming true also. That's important.
absolutely. Yes, it is. And I think a part of it is also, again, leaning on the female part of it. When we hire people to come into our homes, there is a vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've experienced this, I'm sure other women especially have experienced this, but I don't know how many times I've hired a contractor to work on my house and they immediately assume that I could call a boyfriend, call a husband, call a cousin, somebody to come out and do the work for me, or they should
Mm-hmm.
be talking to them. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I own this house. This is my house. This is my money. And then like that hardship of even overcoming that initial bias of them like, well, let me explain it to you. It's like, wait, hold on. Let me explain it to you because granted, I do have the background of a
Right.
construction manager, but also I don't want to be talked down to. I'm not an infant. I'm not a child. I'm an adult who works hard for my money, and I am having high expectations of you working on my home. So being able to have that representation in
Mm-hmm.
who I bring into my home to do the work, that is, I mean, to me, that's just so important and crucial. And I feel like we're going to continue to have a gap in that until we create a better pathway, or at least a more acceptable pathway for different minority groups to be able to come in and say, "Oh, I own this business. Oh, I can come fix your roof. No problem. Let me show up and be in that space, but also appreciate that it is your space." So, yeah.
I love that, actually. Thank you. Thank you for saying that, because it's true. I mean, my husband left a couple of years ago, and so when I am on the phone with the John Deere guy, and
Yep.
which that thing should be called John Diva. It needs so much attention. I'm like, I have work to do. You work for me, tractor. I don't work for you. But anyway, so the first thing he's like, well, can you put your husband on?
Yeah, no.
And
Yeah.
it's like, no,
No.
I'm the one that uses this. I'm the one. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, but actually, I'm wearing white pants. So I do have to change my clothes before I crawl under this thing. So I'll call you back. But
Yeah.
don't, so there is that. And there
Hmm.
is also, I'm a single mom living
Hmm.
here, and I want to feel safe in my own home,
Yep.
and I want to support strong women at the same time. And I'm very grateful for this conversation, because I have some phone calls to make now, and I'm very glad about that.
Aw, well, I'm glad that we could have the conversation. I mean, I definitely have to admit that, as women, we face all kinds of things day to day. Like
Yeah.
it's very much on the regular. So being able to have, again, the vulnerability of like, this is my home, this is my space, having the representation matters. And, to be able to continue to support that really does make a difference. And yeah, it speaks volumes to where we are at and where we
Yeah.
need to go. And I know even personally, like I am 10 times more likely to call someone back if it's a woman who left me a voicemail about concrete work or whatever the service is. Same thing with when we look at statistics right now. Majority of homeowners right now are actually women. And I believe the strong
Oh,
is the
interesting.
single women. So there's this trend, and I'm just really curious to see how, especially residential construction, but construction as a whole is going to grow to support that because again, I'm going to call you back if I hear a female's voice. It's like, oh, hey, or if I know that they, are queer owned or very open and supportive of the
I know.
LGBTQIA.
All of
Yes,
them. There's so
all the
many
acronyms I know.
LMNOP, but I don't mean it disrespectfully. I'm doing my
No.
best.
Yes, the rainbow community, I love them so
Yes.
much. But yes, being able to know that there are spaces that support that and who might show up is not going to second guess me because I do have a female partner or because I live alone or whatever it might be. So it's very much important to have that representation.
I love that. Thank you so much. I really have appreciated this conversation for me personally, and
Oh,
I do know that what's most personal is most universal. So I know that my listeners will have some fabulous takeaways as well. Before I let you go, I would love to know if you mentioned that in the book that there were so many stories that you weren't ready to share or able to share or edit it out, whatever. Is there anything that you would appreciate sharing on this platform that is really safe? The reason that I'm asking is, as I mentioned, I'm my husband left 2 years ago. I'm still in the process of a divorce. And so I personally don't say everything that is on my heart because I don't have a settlement yet. And I'm wanting to be mindful of that and careful of
yeah.
that. And when I am on somebody else's podcast, whoo, I've got things to say because it feels like it's, once removed. And I know that my
Yeah.
story is in service. And I know that whatever limitations or is making me think that I can't talk about it right now, right here on my own damn podcast, that
Mhm.
I'm sure he doesn't listen to, is a limiting belief in my own head. But at the same time, I appreciate when someone holds space like that for me. So if
Mhm.
there is something that you think would be in service to my listeners, but also in service to you, to know that I want to know how my decisions that I'm not putting a lot of thought into are
Mhm.
fueling a machine that I don't want any part of.
Yeah. I honestly, the biggest thread that I could pull out from the story is that I didn't necessarily dive deeper into, and it even ties into me being part of the queer community, but also the traumas that I faced as a kid and growing up as an adult. I think my message that I would add in is for the women and for the minority groups out there that read my book, listen to the podcast. I hear you and I see you. Like the trauma is real. And honestly, it's been really touching and heartbreaking and also inspiring to the amount of stories, comments, texts, emails that I've gotten from folks just saying like, oh my gosh, like I had a very similar experience
Right.
or I had very similar childhood trauma or I was assaulted on a job site. Like those stories are real, and a lot of
Yeah.
the times they get dismissed and swept under the rug. So, for those listening, for those who might read, like I hear you and I see you, you are not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I've been really drawn to this idea of isolation and
Mhm.
what a trap it is.
Okay.
And once we realize, and we know it cognitively, but once I think we really feel, oh my gosh, me too. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I met you and I see you and I appreciate you and I think you're fabulous and that happened to you too. There's
Yeah.
this camaraderie and this sisterhood based on accurate information and shared experience. Get out of our way because
Yep.
it's like that
Absolutely.
is it's unstoppable and there's beauty and love and growth and expansion and grace in its wake.
Yeah. Women need to continue to support each other. Like that's definitely one of the harder conversations I keep having is there is kind of this old model of women pitting themselves against each other. But by doing that, you're actually allowing those who are more on who tend to be part of the toxicity, you're enforcing those bad behaviors for other
Right.
women or other minority groups. So like women, you need to call each other out and say, stop being the mean girl, stop being undercutting. But at the same time, women who are doing that, like you're not helping. You're actually making it harder for those who are coming up, and you're actually creating hardship for yourself as you move up as well. So women really, we really do need to come together and just stop fighting each other. We need to support each other because, we really are stronger together.
I could not agree more. Thank you so much. I've loved this conversation. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, where they can get their hands on your book, all the good things.
Oh, well, thanks, Wendy. It was
My
a pleasure to be
pleasure.
on today and have the space to connect. Yeah, so my book is actually, you can find it on Amazon. So Truth About Being a Woman in Construction. There is a digital and a print copy. As far as all the fun social media channels, Instagram, you can find the book Truth_woman, Truth in underscore construction. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about PivotHigher, plus you can go to PivotHigher.coach, or you can find us on Instagram at PivotHigher. So lots of good information and resources there. And of course, I'm always interested in connecting with people. So if you want to try to find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Lynn, MBA, J Lynn 89. So feel free to reach out.
Perfect. We'll link everything down in the show notes. Thank you so much. It was fabulous to be with you today, Jessi.
Thanks, Wendy. It was a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.